I get shit done, I have fun. It's my time and I'm the one. I'm breaking through.
Hey, welcome. I'm excited. Are you making an impact like you wish to make as a leader? Well, if you are, great. Come and join us. Give us some feedback if you're watching this live. If you're not, go hashtag replay and let us know where you're watching it from. And send us your questions and your comments and your ideas. But if you were here live, you can do that in a moment because I have a wonderful guest who's going to come and help us address that. And you'll learn more about her shortly. In the meantime, here's a shameless plug from me and my what I do with Focal Point, a Brian Tracy powered coaching company. Welcome back. Are you an entrepreneur, maybe a seller, want to be a seller, or you have a question for a business coach? It could be around those topics, or it could be around time, team, money, or exit strategy. And I may or may not know the answer to your question. Don't worry. I'm affiliated with a couple of hundred really fantastic individuals around the globe with a diverse background and basis of experience. So if you have a question, shoot it out to me at phil@coachphil.ca is my website, and you can send me an email to well, actually that was the email, so you can send the email there. Anyway, wow, I'm looking at all of the content I have for my wonderful guest, Sabine. Interesting lady. She's also a coach, so you can ask her questions today as well, or on the replay, shoot it to me and we'll get it to her. But you'll get her contact information here shortly. I don't know where to start. She's worked with well-known companies around the globe. She's a world traveler. She's bilingual, English and German. I struggle with English. Anyway, I'm really excited to have her here. I was looking at all the pieces here. But what we did promise to talk about is we're going to talk about her journey from the grind of corporate jobs to living her dream. And she caught on fire. And in catching on fire, she ended up becoming a coach. So we're both coaches. We're going to have a conversation about coaching and leadership. And maybe we'll be a nugget or two for you. And I can't take my eyes off of her wall. When I bring her on, you'll see what I mean. Welcome. Thank you for being here. I've got pages of stuff to talk about, and I would rather just talk with you.
Thank you, Phil, for having me. This is so exciting. I actually just made a note when you said going from the grind. Yeah. From the grind, from the Rhine.
Oh, right. Yeah, I never thought of that, right? But so you're not living in Germany anymore?
No, I live in Raleigh, North Carolina.
It's a lot warmer there.
As a German, married to a British guy from Liverpool. That's really into a national house here.
Yeah, no kidding. And like I said, I really like the color of your wall there. I like the story you shared before we came live on today's Business Renovator. It's a beautiful color, and it's inspired and motivated by one of your passions, right? Which is diving.
Scuba diving, yes. Yeah. I'm a dive master. And as you mentioned, when I was traveling around the world, that's when I picked up that passion. And started with the open water course and ended with a dive master, open water in the Philippines, and ended as dive master in Fiji, where I also worked on a dive boat for a few months.
You know, one of the things I didn't notice, and it's not that it wasn't maybe not there, but I just didn't notice it. Are you an author?
Yes.
I missed that part. I was just thinking, what everything you've done, there's a book there. Obviously, you've written it.
Yeah, I've written a book. It's called Samsung, My BFF. And that happened during a time when the kids were smaller. And I just wrote a lot of little stories. I started off writing them on Facebook and sharing them with my friends. And somebody mentioned, hey, why don't you just make a book out of it? I'm like, good idea. And I'm also currently writing the memoirs of my grandfather. He was in Russian imprisonment. And so he's written it, but I'm typing it up and adding pictures to it, and also the history to the memoirs. So a mixture of memoir and history, and translating it into English, and then see where I can publish it.
Well, that's fascinating. That's a lot of work to write. And kudos to you for doing that. Not once, but working on a second one. I'm not finished. And people have said to me, I should write a book. And I went, yeah, okay. For people who've done it, congratulations.
Thank you. I mean, the biggest question is always how. How do I do it?
Yeah.
And since two of my my idols are Sarah Blakely and Jamie Lima Kern. I love those two people, and I learned from them, well, you don't need to know the rules, you make your own rules. Or if you do know the rules, you just go ahead and break them.
Yeah, and don't worry about what you don't know. You'll learn it along the way. Like, you know what I found out about gussets from Sarah Blakely? She didn't know about them and what they were. And it reminded me of a story. I was at a networking event, and I was in one of two males in a female room of networking people, and a friend of mine had invited me to come, and she didn't tell me it was that kind of a ratio. So the speaker was talking about the challenges of wearing pantyhose. Well, never having worn them, I wouldn't know what they were. And she explained, you get that gap between the gussets down by your knees, and then Sarah Blakely talks about she didn't even know how to make a gusset, right? And that was part of what she needed to figure out. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of hers. I knew we had a lot in common. I just love that woman and her passion. $5,000 an idea, and I like what her dad taught her and her brother about failing.
Right. Yes.
Asked them at the dinner table, right?
Yeah.
What'd you fail at today? Ooh, interesting. And he was disappointed if they didn't have anything they could talk about.
Yeah, because that means you haven't stretched yourself far enough. You just go in the safety comfort zone of your couch.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Oh, I totally know what you mean. It's like, and we as a race, I believe the majority of us are programmed by our one of my teachers said, Jed, we have this isness, and that's who we see ourselves as, and he defined it as our creative subconscious mind, and that its role is to maintain sanity for us no matter what. We could be in an abusive relationship and we won't leave because we know this. It's comfortable, even though it's painful, or some other infliction. And when we get to that point, I'm thinking you've lived this all your life and maybe didn't even know you were doing it until later on in life. I'm guessing, I don't know that for sure, that when you went on your travels, you were able to step into and out of your isness, right? Because when you travel, there's a lot of unknowns and uncertainties. There are some things that are certain, but there's a lot of uncertainties, I would imagine.
And that's the part that got me so interested in the travel, is the unknown, and trying to discover the unknown and learning about. I totally love meeting new people and learning about new cultures, and get curious and open about why do they do it this way, and why is it, I mean, because usually we know my way is the right way. How could how could this other way make any sense? And I've come across in all these different cultures that I visited, I've come across so many points where I stopped myself in my tracks and went, that's interesting. Why would they do it this way? Because they're a different observer. They see things differently. And that just, at that time, because I wasn't a coach, that just helped me learn so much and open up my eyes to different angles to see things, that just because I was brought up this one way, that's not necessarily the right way or the only way to live. There are so many different variations of seeing things. And that just lights my fire. I love that.
Yeah. What I heard you say without you saying it so much is you were so curious about everything most of the time. I mean, obviously we go back into our isness and get stuck in another program that we're both involved with. We have these saboteurs, right? So the saboteurs hold us back. That's our isness. And then when we use the different side of the mind and the one that supports us, it helps us get to our greatness, to our leadership level, to empower us. That's what I was thinking with all of the experience you've had traveling, that yes, you're taking content and learning, but you've been this curious individual. And that's probably one of the things that's pulled you around the world. When we were off camera, just before the show started, you were saying that you were telling people what you were up to, and they go, well, how can you do that? Right?
Yeah, just because of especially when you travel, you have no hotel. When you backpack like I did, you have no hotel booked. You just go along and see what comes next. So when you arrive with a bus, sometimes in the middle of the night, then I don't know where I'm going to stay, but something will open up. And a lot of people were like, how can you do that? And you also have to remember it was in 1992 when I did that. And at that time, there was no internet. Well, maybe there was an internet, but there wasn't Facebook and Instagram where you could instantly take a picture and this is where I'm at. I had to write letters to my parents. And when they wrote back, it was... you received it poste restante at the general post office, for example, in Bangkok. And every time you go to a post office, a large one, and you check if there's any mail in those huge boxes under your last name starting with R, you go through it and it's like Christmas every single time. It's so fascinating how different it was then, and just believing and trusting something will work. I'm going to be fine. So that was a totally different time back then to travel around, and the world has changed dramatically since then. And also, I would like to jump back on your comment on the busyness or isness, as you say. Just before COVID hit, I've noticed very clearly that a lot of people around me, where if you ask them, how are you? They would say, oh my God, I'm so busy. So the busyness was turned into an emotion, which I didn't know that being busy is an emotion. So, and they identified themselves with the level of achievement and busyness, I'm guessing. And through the pandemic, this all of a sudden was stopped. And then you had to think about, well, who am I then if I'm not busy?
Wow. Yeah. And do you spell busyness the same way I do?
I don't know how you spell it.
Okay, well, let me spell it. And you go, no, busyness. So it's busyness. So we do all these activities. It gets the endorphins going. We feel great because all the stuff we're doing, it's usually low priority stuff, but it's in our comfort zone is what we see ourselves doing. Much of the time has been my experience. And I'm guilty of this myself. So I'm not excluding myself from that equation. I still do it, world. I still do it. I'm working on that though, right? Is to do things that take us to where we want to get to. And I don't know if you found this in your leadership coaching and executive coaching that you do, is when people don't have a goal, which in my world is just something to look forward to, they become wanderers and they just wander around all over the place. And that's when they get into the state of busyness and they feel because they're doing something, they're accomplishing something. Well, and they're not accomplishing anything that's meaningful or impactful in a big way because they haven't made up their mind what they want to do or where they want to go or who they want to be.
Yes, I love what you're saying, because so to me, what's the definition of a leader? A leader to me is somebody that paints a picture of the future, that has a purpose that other people want to be part of. So if you see the purpose in what does this leader want to achieve and what does he want to, where does he want to go, or she, then you get the people that this leader is leading. She has the buy-in from the people she's leading, and they want to be part of it. So a leader paints a picture of a future that otherwise wouldn't be there, and then creates this vortex of energy where people are like, oh my God, this sounds so cool. I want to be part of it. Sign me up. And then you also don't have to have this accountability subject of like, well, did you do this and did you do that? Right?
Yeah, it's less coercion. It's more inspired action, right?
Yes.
Do things on that. I'm a big fan of the language we use. Like, we don't have to do anything. We don't have to pay taxes. You didn't even have to show up for my show. I'm glad you did, but you didn't have to.
But you painted a future for me that I wanted to be a part of.
There you go. And with all the companies that you've worked with, large and both as an employee, as a team member, and then also the ones you coach, is there companies that you've really liked to have enjoyed working with or got pulled to them because of what we're talking about?
So it was not so much, well, the company, yes, for sure. But then, and that's what led me to do this leadership work. I've had my fair share of leaders that were not very good.
You're going where I was hoping.
Yes. I mean, and I don't want to go too much into detail here, but it was painful and it was suffering.
Mm.
And I mean, that really showed me, so is it down to the person, that leader that I had, or was it down to they just didn't have the tools? Nobody gave them the right tools. Because if you think about it, when you become a leader or when you get put into a position, a managerial position, usually they put you into that position because of your technical or functional knowledge. But nobody really checks what is your communication, what are your communication skills, what are your relational skills, what is your emotional intelligence, where are you at in those areas. And then usually when you leave or get fired is because those three areas, the skills are lacking and they don't have the right toolkit. And so I understand both sides. I understand the leadership side, and I also understand the team member side. And in my first role after university, I was the first female member of the management team in my position. And I've also noticed that even as a leader, as a female manager, you also get treated completely different than all the males. Because none of the males were ever asked, hey, do you mind getting us a coffee?
Yeah. Yeah. There's a whole bunch of questions going through my head, so I'm just going to spew them out and hopefully we can cover them. We talked about a mentor that we follow. She doesn't know me, maybe she knows you, but I know her and you know her. So let's start there. And she's a self-made billionaire, sold her business recently. I think it was this year or late last year. But she started off with an idea and a whole bunch of stuff. And one of the cards she had against her, air quotes again, I don't think it's really against her, but it was inspirational and she took it on. She's female. How could she be a billionaire? Well, that's a stupid thought. But the women that I've met have been up against that. And there's women like you that take it on and travel the world and have a passion for curiosity. And as my theme song says, get shit done. And it doesn't matter, no matter what. You don't know what you don't know and just go figure it out. That's what Sarah Blakely did. And I think I'm influenced by what she's done. I've written a couple of articles for newsletters with our company in and around the lessons I gained from her. And this is fantastic having you on the show here today, to have a woman's perspective about reality and not just the perception of what reality is, because I've heard that before. And some of the best leaders I've got to work with or been mentored by, whether they chose to mentor me or not, were women. And I'm a better man because of the women that I got to hang out with, whether they knew it or not. I wasn't stalking them, wasn't weird like that because it was professional. But I liked what they did. And I liked their philosophy to relationships and business and selling. So I assimilated those aspects of who they were and what they do as best I could as a guy. So having you on here and sharing a bit of your insight for the world, for both men and women, I think is fantastic.
What also sometimes gets forgotten is that usually we shine the light on how men get in the way of women or how men treat us this and that way. But we also have to look at how do women treat each other.
Yeah.
So when I did my expenses way back when I was in this management team, we had one office assistant or an assistant. I had an assistant that also helped the office team, and she helped the other managers with the expenses. And she would just say to me, "I can show you how the system works." So she offered me that I could do my own expenses. Well, did she offer that to any of the other managers?
Oh,
So that's just an example of what happens that, yeah, you're a woman, you can figure that one out. Does that mean men can't do it, or does she not? The question doesn't even arise for her to offer it to the male managers to do that kind of work.
interesting, right? And
Just
we're not.
because I can do it doesn't mean that I have to do it, right?
Yeah. The other Sarah Blakely story that was going through my mind thinking about her was when she joined a group of men I think it was a mastermind. I don't know if you know that story or not. And they thought that she wouldn't last their group. And, it was shortly thereafter they realized that she was smart and savvy and tenacious and a quirky, interesting human being, not just a woman. And they started asking her for advice on business and relationships and all kind of stuff. But in the beginning, they saw her, that's just a woman. I've taken her master class. I've studied it a couple of times. It's well worth the. Sarah, do I get a commission? No.
Yes, please, over here.
But if you get a chance to study what she does, and if you don't want to take a class, I'm speaking out to everybody who might be listening to this, is go to YouTube and listen to the interviews. She's an amazing individual. $5,000 in her kitchen, and she was selling fax machines, and that wasn't making her heart sing. So she knew she was going to do something to empower women, and she did. And she even got Warren Buffett's belly in her coffee table book, right? She was taking pictures of herself as she was pregnant, and she had images painted on it. So Warren Buffett's belly is in her book. So she's friends with Warren Buffett and Sir Richard Branson. And why do I say that? Because I think because it's really up to us to go after what we really want. Like you did traveling. You probably had some friends that were a little bit more conservative, a little bit more seeing the glass as not fillable. And you knew that you could just get a new glass, it's refillable. There was all sorts of solutions, and you learned that and was an experience that I'm guessing you experienced with all the different places you've traveled. Because how many countries did you hit?
In total, during my entire life so far, it's been 49 now.
Yeah, that's a lot. I'm a rookie. I've only hit about, I don't know, 6.
No, but so when you were talking about Sarah Blakely, I did a training with Tony Robbins, and Sarah Blakely was one of the speakers. So I mean, that's a completely different energy. But I truly believe in nothing is impossible until you haven't tried it out.
Yeah.
Because this phantom, as I call it, the phantom of certainty doesn't exist. There is no certainty. The only thing that's certain is that you're going to die. And the rest, there's no certainty.
Yeah.
You might as well have fun and try things out. And if you fail, like Sarah, the stat said, congratulations, you failed.
Yeah. Now, what did you
So
learn?
now look at what did you learn and try something else.
Do you know what the acronym FAIL stands for?
No.
First attempt in learning.
Oh, yes, I think I've heard that before.
Yeah.
And do you know the acronym for fear?
Yeah, there's a couple. Fantasize experience appearing real is one. Face everything and rise is another.
Okay.
Those are the only two I think I know. Do you have one you want to throw in the pot?
The one that I have is false evidence appearing real.
Ah, yeah. All of them are great.
So it's basically, where do you focus on the reasons why you cannot do it? No, I'm looking for the reasons why I can do it. And that's a beautiful thing. So I've created this women's professional network where we support each other on LinkedIn. And if any ladies out there are there that want to join the network, but you have to be connected with me first to be able to join the network. And it's beautiful because we are all trying to help each other break through the glass ceiling and break through the false belief that we cannot do certain things. We can do anything we want, just like men.
Or better.
Thank you.
Well, in some cases, I think that's true. Women do things in a different way than men. I got to experience it firsthand with, I coached girls hockey, and it was an elite level of hockey. So they were about 15 and almost 18, depending when their birthday was. And we'd have them from September. Well, we usually did pretty good. So we went to end of April. So we were usually in the playoffs. And being on a bus and hanging out with them and having to be their coach, their guardian, and sometimes their friend. And to see the differences between the young girls and the older girls and how they managed winning and losing compared to guys. It was 3 years. It was like, it was a priceless experience. It was hugely valuable for me to understand the differences of the genders. And they are, I mean, the psychological and the emotional things. A male hockey player at that same age, many of them would be anal and hang on to the failures, not like a Sarah Blakely. They dwell on it and think, and they put their energy on the failing versus what could they learn from it. And there was one time we had traveled to a small city outside of where I live, and I was talking to my coaching buddy, and I said, "Did we win 4-1? We lost 4-1 to a team we should have beat, but the girls didn't show up, and they didn't play. They didn't deserve to win, so they didn't. But when it was all over, they didn't wallow in despair. They got over the loss. They don't like losing. It's not that they like losing, but they managed the loss better than most guys do."
But I also do believe that it has to do with how the boys versus girls are being raised. Because if the boys lose, that means something to their existence or who they are. I'm a loser. So they identify themselves with the losing rather than, okay, we lost the game. Let's move on and focus on to the next one.
Yeah, and I think it's the society of I forget who did the study, but I heard about it decades ago for one of my mentors. And back then, and he said they did a study of, they put a non-gender specific infant baby in a mall, in a foyer. We didn't just leave it, they watched it, but they dressed it in blue and then they dressed it in pink. And the way that people approached and dealt with the individual pinkness or blueness of the baby was polar opposite. So that's part of our society as a whole, generally speaking. Are we still that way? Probably.
And it's also so my boys are both really tall. And when they would walk around still with a pacifier in their mouth, we would get the looks like, why does he still have that in his mouth? Well, because he's two.
Just tall, yeah.
Yeah, he's just a tall kid. And they also do treat them differently. When the other one that's way smaller, they go like, oh, so cute. Why doesn't he know how to do that?
Yeah. So those are the biases. I had a coach that came on, and her focus was about bias. It was interesting. She was from Australia. I've got your LinkedIn page up here for people to get connected with you, and there's the link. So if you're a woman that was wanting to join Sabine's community, this is where you could start that process, right?
Yep.
I don't qualify.
Sorry.
That's okay. That's all right. I still like you.
That's good. I like you too.
And then the other side, I'm going to go up here.
Okay.
And this is your website.
Yeah.
Where you can find out more about you. Executive coaching, finding new ways, and opens up new possibilities. I'm thinking somebody who's traveled around the world is probably pretty open-minded and seen a whole bunch of things. And if you're looking for somebody with Sabine's energy, go check her out on her website. There's the URL right there. I'm hurling your URL because that's what you should do. Promoting you. Anyway.
Thank you, Coach Phil.
Hey, you're welcome. I'm going to bring us back like that, though. So did we talk about some really good ideas about making the impact you wish to make as a leader? I think there was a couple of nuggets in there for sure. What else would you like to add on to that?
Well, If you are one of the leaders that wants to make an impact and feels stuck, then please reach out to me. I'm happy to support you. That's one thing for sure. And as Sarah Blakely says, or her father says, I challenge you to fail. Write down how many times you fail in the next month. Should be once a day. And I'm not just talking about computer programs
No,
or
just everything.
technology mishaps.
It's everything, right?
For sure, yeah.
Wow. Look how time flies. We're already at the 30-minute mark. I think what we're going to do is I'm going to invite you to consider coming back later in the year. We'll switch up the topic a little bit and see what else we can bring to the forefront and share with the audience, whether they see it now or on the replay, if that's okay with you.
I would love to, yes. And if people have questions or they have ideas, what they want to see, they can also post that here.
Yeah, that would be a great idea. They could post it on your site and you could tell me, or they could post it to me. Contact information is right there for me. I want to say thank you for a wonderful guest appearance and the blue color of your wall. I love it.
Thank you.
Your energy is fantastic.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. I'll see you in a bit.
Okay.
Well, I liked hearing what we talked about. I thought it was very impactful. So if you know somebody who would be an interesting guest that has a message to share, if they know it or not, but you think they do, here's an opportunity for you to help them out. Introduce them to me on the Business Renovator, and we'll put them on and let them share their message with the world. You just never know what kind of impact that somebody could have. And you could have been the one introducing them. Heck, maybe it's you. In the meantime, I want you to focus on this. The you in wonderful is deliberately a you. It's not a mistype. It's representing your uniqueness and you. So go out there and act like you. You're wonderful you. Until the next episode of The Business Renovator, I'm Coach Phil.
I get shit done, I have fun. It's my time and I'm the one. I'm breaking through.